Hi, Anne.
Hi, Hilary.
So, welcome to our dialogue,
Yes.
monthly dialogue about where we are right now with Grace Between Races after having, I think it's been a bit over a month about since we've talked last and we were
Yes.
meeting in person last time. And
Hmm.
this month we've had, we did have two guests actually. Yeah, and that these guests were Lily-Rakia Chandler and Ike Rodriguez.
Right.
Yeah, and so what were your impressions from this past month, and what do you want to?
With Lily, Rakia Chandler, I find what came up for me was the fact that she brought up the point of her diversified background and how she is drawing from these background and the positive things and using that to help her to understand culture and to interact with culture and perhaps even helping her on her own journey with the work that she's doing with children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she's been a dear friend of mine for a while, and I've always just loved being around her because I feel like like, I don't really know, like, how she's going to respond. Like, I know aspects of her, but I see more and more of her all the time, and
Right.
so much richness in her mixed
Yes.
heritage, like so many
Yes.
different traditions that she's really deeply explored, from
Right.
Judaism and Black culture and
Right.
Jamaican culture. She was in a reggae band uh,
Yes.
for a while, and we sang
Yes.
reggae together. Super.
Yes.
And she also has white background and family, and also indigenous and Native
Yeah.
American. And so and I know she has deep relationships with tribes as well,
Yeah.
and other indigenous folks locally.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a ton from her about
Yeah.
how she navigates these different identities and heritages, and
Yeah.
lives them, like does the rituals and traditions and practices, and lives aligned with them while being um, Waldorf, like she was teaching Waldorf
Yeah.
school, and learning their practices and deeply studied those traditions, and then also is now building her own business as the child whisperers,
Yeah.
and empowering parents to become child whisperers themselves, and to
Right.
understand their children
Mhm.
better, and by really doing a lot of the decolonization too themselves, and
Yeah.
um, and being able to be self-reflexive and um, in dialogue with their children in deep ways. So yeah, super inspiring talking to her, uh,
Yeah.
and and also of, like, how do I want to be a mother,
Yeah.
like, really, who who would I be as a mother? And
Mhm.
I don't want to be my mom. Doesn't mean I love my mom, and she did a
Right.
lot of great things, but I need to be myself, and I need to live my truth. And
Yeah.
Lily-Rakia has showed me so much more of what that means to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I mean, I haven't had the experience of working with people from, I mean, I've worked with people from different backgrounds, but not in the way that she's doing it. And I could see the richness that these culture have brought in to, you know, bringing out in her the person that she is. And she touched on that a little bit too, where if we could um if we could draw from all the cultures, how much richer we would all be. And I think that is so correct because based on what I pick up from her anyway is that richness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she appreciates that in other people as
Yeah.
well, and in children. Like
Yeah.
she's and feels the full person, and can then help parents to do that with their own children as well.
Right.
and
Right.
and that's such a gift. I mean, it's really about bringing families and communities and tribe back
Together. Yeah.
together. And
Together.
it's a much larger vision than just what she's calling it, which is the child
Right.
whisperers. Um,
Whisperers. Yeah.
our parent coaching is another term that she's using as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she's really talking about massive culture shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a huge one, coaching parents and all of that, because that's very needed in society. And I commend her with that brave initiative on that journey.
Mhm.
It's a really spiritual and well needed journey. It's a blessing that that she tap into um, that work, because not everybody. I mean, even though we've been doing these things for eon of time, but still, parenting job is one of the for me is one of the most hardest job on the planet. And there's no manual. There's no um, there's a lot of to dos and all of that, but there's something that's missing, that a lot of people struggle with. And if she, I mean, which is what she's doing, is tapping into that and bringing that aid for people to see that there's another way that perhaps we could look at it and deal with the everyday situation, because we're living in a time where I don't think that the old techniques that was used to raise children is even workable anymore. So we have to have new strategies and new skills in order to work with our children.
Mhm.
And spirit, but coming from this perspective is really a great way to help that situation.
Mhm.
And also, with Ike, I will go on to Ike. What he brought up for me was also the perspective of how, children that are brought up in family that perhaps they might be the lighter one in the family, what kind of role they play and what kind of responsibility is put on these children as really like a kind of savior to the family or something. And how does that contribute to white supremacy? And is that the kind of conditioning that we want to maintain? And how does that reflect on the other children that may not be as light within the family construct and all of that? So that was very important in that conversation with Ike. The
Mhm.
other thing that came up for me was the fact that how we use the idea of making money, and then how our mindset, which is what he brought out, the shift, the mindset itself of how we earn money, and going behind just from that perspective of money, and not with consciousness, not with values. So when we go behind profit, we have to take into consideration that if we go behind, our goal is to make profit, it will always have corruption.
Mhm.
But if we come from the perspective of purpose and value, then we're coming from a different perspective, which is more grounding and less um, volatile to fraud and all those kind of corruption and stuff. So
Right. Yeah, he did say that. Yeah. And I mean, and he lived it so, like, in such a raw way at such a
yeah.
young age, because he grew up with so much scarcity, and
Hmm.
imagine coming out of that has been really challenging. And he talks to me about that personally, but he did also talk about that in our recording, and how, like, to be growing up like in this really poor neighborhood and with almost no money, um and
Hmm.
to be seen as white in a family who was colored as, Taino, which is indigenous Puerto
Right.
Rican, and um, to be like stepping into supporting his family at quite a young age, feeling the kind of need to do that from his family as well. And he's given so much to his family and supported them. But he hasn't felt that so much from them. And what does that bring up for him?
Mhm.
Um, and and how could he get out of that dynamic and create his own reality and
Mhm.
create this new vision from his spiritual awakening um, through his uh, astrology and astronomy. Um,
Mhm.
it's just been really inspiring for me.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, and he's someone who's still putting a lot of pieces together in some
Right.
ways, and he's not sustaining himself from the work of astrology and astronomy yet, but he's getting there, and he has a daughter. So actually, it tied in with Lily-Rakia's sharing because he talked about, you asked a beautiful question, really, about how do we as parents support our children to live their dreams and to be empowered. And he had a great answer to that, but he's also struggling to do that with his daughter Moon, and like all other parents are too, um,
Yeah.
because it's so personal for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really also like the fact that he touched on how he was able to pull himself up from that poverty state of mind and pull himself up to rise and build his own business and go through the steps. And that also brings me to the point of looking at how we view success and what is that. What I mean, it defined, like each person defines that individually, but in the context of the American dream, like is it just by accumulating, and then you reach to a place where you realize that this is not the happiness that I'm looking for, and then you come back to simplicity and you come and you bring that back down. And so, what it is will make us is the contentment that we're looking for. Is it, and again, I said it in the beginning, is it the purpose and value that's missing, or is it just the profit? Because that's where the greed thing comes in, and where a lot of people in business and not in business, but everybody is fighting for is that deeper connection with what it is, what it means to be sustainable. Is it like that barrel with the hole in it where it could never be filled, or is it the fact that we do the things that brings us joy and passion and purpose, but not only for ourselves but for the world at large,
Yeah, and
for humanity,
supporting our kids to
and
follow
supporting our kids.
that
Yes.
inspiration that's so naturally there as children, and to not tamp that down because
Hmm.
of what maybe makes us feel uncomfortable as
Right.
adults, because maybe we haven't followed those dreams, um,
Yeah.
or our natural inclinations and our passion, and it's really sad to see so many people who haven't followed their passion. And and I have my own feelings, because for me, I did in some ways, but school really tamped it down for
Yeah.
me. And I
Yeah.
was very good at being the good girl
Yeah.
and getting good grades and being really good at everything I did,
Hmm.
my parents happy. And while I was still doing things that I loved, I didn't have access to my core energy and my true embodiment and connection with the earth.
Right.
And both Lily-Rakia and Ike, while they may not both have spoken so much about it, they've both done that work in very
Yeah.
different ways. And I know that the Waldorf training that Lily-Rakia did is really about that, through Rudolf Steiner's um, his teachings and trainings. It's really about uniting Eastern and Western philosophy and bringing people back into relationship with the earth. And Lily-Rakia is deeply connected to her native traditions, and also she's just spent a lot of time in nature, really listening and being in reciprocity, which is very much an indigenous practice.
Yeah.
And also the Jewish tradition is very much about the earth and the cycles of the seasons and being in relationship with community through those cycles. And I know that she deeply practices, and not just in a way of like, okay, now we need to do this, but she's really has imbibed meaning in it and does very deep emotional processing through co-counseling, in which she looks at all of these traditions, as well as I would say the trauma that these different um, groups of people heritages carry, and
Yeah.
how she carries them in her own DNA,
DNA.
and how her family has also given her this trauma, and how she can take responsibility for unloading it and unpacking it and discharging it. And she has a very consistent practice of doing that. And
Right.
that's really, really inspiring to witness,
Yeah.
be part of with her. And then, and Ike, he's done it in a completely different way, right?
Yeah.
Like he went and lived on a sailboat for 11 years and got
Right.
connected to the waters and to the wind and to his body and to the sky and the stars and the planets. And that is a very different journey. And yet he's also gone through a lot of transformation through, just life changes and relationships and all of that. And, you know, him and I are spending some time together, so I know him, but we're not going to get too much into the personal stuff. But at the same time, like there are different ways of going about this work, and yet reflection is necessary and important, and conversation, I think, is like, I guess I'm sitting with this question, is I think pretty necessary and important to be able to fully integrate these understandings, and to be a part of community in it,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what I see as the difference between Lily-Rakia and Ike and their journeys. Um, and not that, like, one is better or whatever. Like they're both in community. It's just the way that they've chosen to be in community and how
Yeah.
they're engaging in the dialogue and the understandings. And it's just that they have these different gifts of bringing forth truth, and holding space for parents and children, and creating culture that way. And on the other hand, having dialogues and sharing about the archetypes and these kind of universal energies that are connected to the planets and the stars that we embody, and helping people to come back to their humanity in that way.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful to get
Yeah.
these different perspectives. But both of them are really working on business right now, because Lily-Rakia is just starting
Yeah.
up. So we didn't even think about that so much when we were talking to her, but now it's clear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, how does that tie in? It ties in with the growth of Grace Between Races as well. Um,
Yeah.
because Grace Between Races is the forum for bringing these guests with their experiences and their abundance of wisdom into a space where we can all share honestly and raw and have these conversations. And you know, as I say before, and I keep repeating that sometimes things come up and it stretches us, it expands us into looking at things from different topics from different perspective. And so the expansion from that perspective, there is where the work of personal, you know, you could personally go in and check in with yourself and work out the kinks and come back um, with new, fresh eyes of seeing this different topic. So I feel that this is a space that that's very needed, and I would like to hear from our guests in the gathering and all the people that participate from bi-weekly, and you know, people who may not know about this. I would like you to look at the videos and give feedbacks and let us know what are your thoughts on what the work that is being put out here, and where yours, you know, give us your feedbacks and let us know. But for me personally, it have expanded my viewpoint and my way of looking at the whole issue of race reconciliation, parenting, the whole construct of humanity, money, and it's going on. And this is where even like for the future of Grace Between Races, I think there's some exciting opportunities and ideas that's coming up for me to introduce new ways of looking, different ways of looking at perhaps some old issues, and really working with intention and empowerment and lightness and fun and openness to really bring something and more make that shift, you know, and more beautiful and cohesive and inclusive and all of that for all of us, you know. And
Yeah.
this is my dream, this is my mission, this is my intention, and I hope you share this with me and the same intentions. And if you do, yeah, give me some feedback, give us some feedback, and let us know. I mean, Hilary have some things that she's going to be focusing on in the future, and I might, you know, have to step up and take more of a central role. And so I would like to hear from you and your feedback as to how you feel about this whole conversation and the dialogues that we've been sharing, and you know, how it have helped you to expand.
Yeah, please. I would love to hear from people too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm like Anne said, I'm going to be starting a job as a chaplain in a hospital in 2 months, and we actually are looking for someone else too to come in and support, because I won't be able to be as involved administratively. I'll have this full-time position, and we want more input, we want more engagement, we want more people, and we want to be on Patreon so that we're making receiving some donations and support for doing this work and continuing it and growing it as well. And really, your visions, your input could help us to understand more of what's possible for Grace Between Races, and bringing this into a larger forum, possibly bringing it into a more sustainable forum like Patreon, for instance. Maybe there's other aspects of starting like a resource page where we can put downloads and different things like that. Um, what do you think about Facebook? Is there another forum online that would be better for that? Do you want to have in-person gatherings somehow? How could that work? That might be a longer term vision. Do you want to start your own local group doing this and like want support around that? I mean, there's so many different ways that this could go, and it is really a time of transition, and you know, Ike was talking all about that, and I can tell you, him and I were collaborating on some embodied astrology work together, and we're doing an event actually on Friday. So if you're out in the Hudson area in New York or willing to drive, in Castleton on Hudson at a place called Stablegate Farm and Winery, we're doing an event called the Full Moon Cosmic Dance Mandala. It's a long name, but it's him giving us some information about what's happening in the sky through sidereal astrology, which is what is aligned with astronomy, and going through those archetypes and supporting us to embody them. So I'll be giving some guidance around embodiment and what those planets, what those aspects are really like, and how we can relate to the elements through them, and how they relate to each other and reflect upon those in our lives. And then we're going to do a dance. We're going to do Moving in Grace, and journey through the archetypes of this time and how they're relating to each other as this large cosmic family. And then we'll have a jam at the end.
Yeah, you know, it's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a very nice discussion, dialogue this evening, and just, you know, just give us your feedback and let us know how you feel. And you know, you could write, you know, put something on Facebook on the Grace Between.
Oh.
On YouTube, you could, you know, either subscribe or you could write some comments about the videos and give us some thumbs up. Or
let's keep it on Facebook, ideally.
Okay.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, and so more people can see it.
Could see it. Okay, wonderful. And yeah, we'll take it from there on Facebook. And you know, just again, come out to the gatherings. I don't know who is next on the gathering in a
Kevin
week or two.
Goodman.
Okay.
And we're solidifying the date. It might be the 17th or the 24th, but
Okay.
the 24th.
Okay.
He is a professor of social justice education, and did a fellowship the last 2 years in UMass. And he's a dear friend of mine as well. And
Good.
He's also a mover and a dancer, and a really cool guy who's doing a lot of exploration on the fringes of social justice education with embodiment, and really bringing that more into the center of the work around social justice. So yeah, so I'm excited
Wonderful
to have him share with us.
Yeah. So looking forward to that, and you know, come join us, and let's keep doing this work and growing together and expanding. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and bye.
Thank you, Hilary. Bye-bye.